And if I can't, well, you know how it goes. Life is going, and we are still going to do what we do. So I am up late doing this live with you guys, talking with you guys, sharing with you guys, of course. And right now, you might hear some crinkling in the background, working on some bookmarks and some other things for the holidays so that I can get some stuff out for some people that I'm working on some stuff for, which I'm excited about. So, unity, my friend would say. So, anyway, we're going to talk about Psalms, and I'm going to read Psalms 100 from the Word. I know I read it earlier today. If you guys got a chance to hear about dropping that old love, that old unrequited love, I know about that all too well. But if you didn't get a chance to hear it, go back and check out the replay. And I hope you listen, and I hope you get something from it. But this time I'm going to read all of it in totality and not from that personalized coloring book, because I already knew that sometimes when I go back and I would search the scripture, sometimes I didn't say exactly what it was. But for at that moment, that was good for what it was. But we're going to go back and go get some word for real, what it all says, and not just a portion of it. So I'm going to be reading Psalm 100, verses 1 through 5. So come with me as we take a little chitty chat about boundaries and do you know you? Do you know you? So let's go ahead and pray, and then we're going to go ahead and read this Psalm 100, and we're going to read it, and then we're going to have a chitty chat. So let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this time to, Lord, listen to your word, have a message. And Lord, I just pray that your word just go out and reach all those hearts, Lord God, and those minds that need to hear from you, Lord God, and need a change and need a touch. So, Lord, I'm just thankful for your word. And Lord, I know your word will never return back void. So, Lord, as it goes out today and me reading it, Lord God, and sharing it, Lord, I pray that all those that would hear would want to run for the Lord Jesus and follow him and become, of course, followers of the Lord Jesus Christ. Lord, I thank you for your son and what he has done and what he has sacrificed. And Lord, let me never forget, and let others also never forget that he was that substitutionary death, Lord God. And we know that we can never repay what has been given to us, and that the grace that has been provided to us, Lord, is not cheap. And we need to remember it was costly, and that it cost, Lord Jesus, everything. So, Lord, I thank you for it. And Lord, I pray as I maneuver with where I'm at and the challenges with where I am living, Lord, that you would work it out only as you can. And Lord, I'm still yet grateful, regardless of the circumstance, Lord. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. And Lord, I just pray that you intervene only as I know that you can, Lord. So I'm praying that this landlord would do what she needs to do to straighten out this situation. In the name of your son Jesus, I pray. Amen. All right. So here we are yet again. Like I just talked and I heard your voice earlier this morning. I don't really want to hear it again. Or you may be saying, I haven't heard enough of it. I would love to hear it again. Either way, whatever side of the spectrum you are on, welcome. How are you all doing tonight? So, or now early morning, because we switched over to Saturday. So, hey, we walked in from Friday to Saturday. So, what is up with everyone? So, today I'm going to read to you guys scriptures as I'm also doing and working on my craft. So, let me go ahead and read Psalm 100, and then I will chat with you and we will have a conversation before, of course, Clubhouse starts today, which is Podcast Connect Network. And you can check that out 4 p.m., 4 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. CST, and 7 p.m. EST, respectively, on Clubhouse. So please come over. We'll be discussing boundaries, as I, of course, am sharing right now. So I'm going to be sharing that, and let's go ahead and read, and then we'll have the chat about do you know you? So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Okay, here we go. Make a joyful shout to the Lord, all you lands. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who has made us, not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture, and to enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name, for the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures to all generations. Amen. So, as I continue to read all of this, that's all of Psalm 100, by the way, verses 1 through 5. As I'm reading, and I read verse 3, and it says, Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who has made us, and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. So I'm going to start with boundaries, right? Now we know the Lord is in control of everything. He made us, he created us, he designed us, he did all of that. And there are certain things that sometimes we want to ignore. I'm like, I don't do this and I don't do that. And sometimes we say that trying to be something else or trying to be in a particular way or something or other. We're trying to do something. We're trying to be that super uber saint, or we're trying to be super uber pure. However, that cannot be the case because nobody is, right? Nobody is pure as the driven snow. Nobody, right? So sometimes we have this thing in our head like, I have to be this way because that's the way it's got to be. Well, sometimes we give ourselves a little bit too much of the what not to do and shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. And we strain ourselves to the point that we are just overly putting on all these extra rules and things that we cannot do that sometimes we can't even adhere to. We want to tell ourselves not to do this, not to do that, and we still cannot adhere to it. And sometimes we are not honest to ourselves. And I'm going to say that. Sometimes we are not honest to ourselves the way we need to be, right? And so, excuse me, we have a little sip of my fancy coconut water. That's my source tonight, coconut water. So we want to do fancy dancy things, and we want to also give ourselves rules we cannot live up to, right? We want to put that stuff on ourselves. We can't live up to these things that even we put upon ourselves, and it's very strange that we try to do that, but we do. And that's just something we do. And we tend to do these things because we're trying to prove to ourselves, well, I can hold off and I can do this and I can stop doing that. And without the Lord helping you to do it as you're trying to do, you won't be successful at it. And I'm talking about certain things, okay? So certain behaviors and certain things the Lord has to help you with. You can't just do it by yourself. He really has to help you. And sometimes people don't like, I don't need. I could just say, I'm good, and it will just stop whatever that thing is. But you still have to know you, right? I know me, and I know when it comes to certain things, what it is I will do, and the things that I know is not good for me, right? Things that will drive me up the wall mentally, right? And when it comes to engaging in certain types of behaviors and acts, I know for me what will not throw me over the edge. What is just like, okay, this is the norm for me. I can handle this. I'm good. But sometimes we don't know ourselves. So we don't know how to set boundaries because we don't know ourselves. We don't know what we will accept. We don't know what we will tolerate. We have no idea who we are, right? We need to discover who we are. And that's one of the things of how do you set boundaries? You have to know who you are. You have to understand. Pastor Jay and I were talking, and he used this word, and I like it because we're going to throw it around with boundaries too. And last time he used the word standard, right? And that's a very good word. But now there's another one we're going to throw in here, limitations, right? We need to know our limits. We need to realize where our limitations stand. How far can you go without going over the edge and going into Crazyville town, right? How far can you go when it comes to cuffing season? How far can you go, right? And I'm not talking trying to press your limits to extend yourself. You need to know yourself well enough after you've sat down and thought about who you are. You need to think about your limitations, your boundaries, your standards of what you allow into your life, what you don't allow, what you don't want, what you accept. I know me and I know how I am. And I know there's certain things in the realm of cupping season where I just don't try to play those games. I just am not interested if someone comes to me and I know who they are and I know their past history and I'm just not willing to deal with it. I might entertain that person to a certain extent. I know exactly what I'm doing because when Pastor Jay was talking about my shark attack, which we'll talk about a little bit more in depth, I understand who he is. I understood who he was, right? To me. I also understand I was not in that mindset anymore. I was not in that level anymore. I wasn't checking for him like that. I didn't want that, right? That's a thing that I knew that I didn't want. I didn't want to play those games. Obviously, I could do what we had normally done. I didn't want to do that anymore. I was tired of that game. It ran its course. That no longer served me. So when you understand who you are, there's certain things you can walk away from and you feel good about it, right? You can feel good about saying, what, I don't want to participate in this type of thing anymore because I just don't want to. You don't have to have a reason for that person, but you do have to have a reason for yourself, right? A reason why you stop doing something because you don't want to. Just like, I don't want to. Okay, that could be good enough if that's true, because you can't really psych yourself out. You can't really lie to yourself because yourself like, I call uh, jinx on that. I call not true. What you're saying to me, you're trying to psych me out, but you really don't believe what you're saying. And your mindset and your mind and your intention in your head, you have to be able to understand yourself. And so when you're setting boundaries, there are for you not just to protect yourself, but also protect other people, right? You don't want to bring someone into something where you purposely know that you're going to do something, you're going to flake out on them, you're going to run on them, you're going to disappear, you're not going to really be vulnerable with them. You just don't really want to do that. You don't feel in that headspace, but you're not going to tell them you're going to do that. You're just going to disappear, right? So you could be leaving a person hurt, not just them hurt you, but you could be hurting them as well. And sometimes we don't think about that. We just want to just do what we want to do, get what we need for that time, and go on ahead. And it's good and wise to think about the other person, right? In terms of what that person means to you. If you could be the chameleon shark, right? We talk about these chameleon sharks coming into your life, but sometimes we can be the chameleon shark too. We haven't talked about that. We can be the chameleon shark, right? You don't want to be the chameleon shark and going out there hurting people. Because yes, chameleon sharks can hurt you, but we can do the same thing. If we've been hurt, we want to be careful that we don't turn into a chameleon shark and then go out there and start hurting other people by doing the same thing that was done to us. Whether we don't call them, whether we just dismiss their feelings, whether we start gaslighting them, right? There's that part too. There's a reverse to the boundaries where you set stuff up to keep yourself safe and protect you from others. And then you have to also know, and the reverse of that, if you are that person that says, I really just want to toy with them, I really want to play with them, and you know what you're doing, right? We have to be careful that we don't do that either, because we could fall into that. Like, I could treat these people just the way they treated me. Like, this guy used to play with my head. This girl used to play with my head. I'm going to play with these other people's heads because somebody played with me. We don't want to do that, because that's not the way we should move anyway. And some people get so hurt that that's all they think about doing is hurting another person. So they say, I'm going to hurt that person before they hurt me. Is that really helping? Is that really helping you to be better, to be kinder? No, I think it's not helping, right? I don't think that's serving you. And I don't think that's helping that other person, because you're sitting there just trying to get back at somebody else that harmed you. So you go around and you harm somebody else. I want to do that. I want to be that evil little person. I want to be that evil little person. And sometimes we become that. Unbeknownst to us, we become this evil little person trying to get back at other people because they did not do what we wanted them to do, right? So since they didn't do what we wanted them to do, we turn out and start going to try and hurt other people. So we need to know ourselves. We need to understand who we are. We need to know what we are trying to accomplish with our boundaries we're setting. What are we not going to allow in our lives? What is it we're not going to allow? Because you have to understand that if you don't know what it is, you had better get some standards for yourself, some standards and some boundaries, so you can protect yourself and understand, wait, this person is trying to do X, Y, Z, and the third to me. But you'd have to recognize that by knowing who you are. So then I pose the question again. Do you know you? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you will tolerate? Do you know what you will allow? Do you know what you will accept? Will you accept someone gaslighting you all the time? Do you even know if you're being gaslit? Do you know if they're doing that to you? Can you recognize what they're doing? Or will you say, I don't believe they're doing that to me, and then try to make excuses and try to protect their behavior against you? I mean, to each their own. If you like it, like Pastor Jay and I and I would say, and I like his statement, if you like it, we love it. But I don't want to love that you're being harmed and you're accepting that kind of behavior from anybody, right? So as I had read before, because I'm gonna tap a little bit on this morning's, is unrequited love is so hard to deal with. And sometimes we don't understand when people are really playing on our emotions and toying with us, because it's subtle. They're not going to tell you, hey, I'm toying with your emotions, you better watch out. No, they're just going to do it. And by the time you realize that they're toying with your emotions, you've been sitting there looking at them like, why would you do that to me? Why would you talk to me like this and tell me that you cared for me and all this, but then you go around and do something that's way out of character? Because that person was toying with you, but you didn't want to realize what they were doing. See, we have to be able to call some things out ourselves and not have to wait till someone harms us to say, oh, shoot, that was no good. I shouldn't have waited so long. No, you got to be proactive and set those things up. And Pastor Jason and I will be talking about this later on today, but boundaries are so important and they're so necessary to keep you safe and to let you have freedom and liberation to know what you will accept and what you will tolerate, if you will, right? You don't have to tolerate everybody's behavior. That is not going to serve you, is not helpful, and is just downright toxic to you. You don't need to accept those type of behaviors. And now that someone knows, and particularly all of us that we've been talking about this, if you know that someone's gaslighting you, you can clearly walk away from them, because this is the thing. People that do that, it's not like they don't know what they're doing. They do. Just like that play from that time in 1838, excuse me, that was remade again in, was it, I think 1844 or 1944. I have to go back and look. I got my years mixed up because I have to go and check it back. But after watching that that little bit of a clip, that person knew exactly what they were doing. So when you say, well, why would they do that? It's not really a matter of why they do it. It's a matter of, will you not stop hanging around them so they can't do it anymore because they know what they're doing and they don't care how sweet you are, how loving. That's not their care. They don't care. But for those of us that are gentle and loving people, we want to love people back to their right mind, and we want to love people back to love us hard. And sometimes that's just not what you're going to get. You're not going to get that, right? You're not going to get someone loving you the way that you think that you should be loved by that individual. They're not going to give that to you. You say, well, I think that I can change them if I listen. No. No, that could be, but then again, no. Because when someone wants to do something and they really want to hurt you, they will. And do they need a rhyme and reason to do it? Not really. No. They don't need a rhyme and reason. They just do what they do. So sometimes when we talk about these things, like, well, why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. And it doesn't really have to make sense. It's just that we are trying to help you. And I want to let you know that some of these things that people do, they don't always make sense, right? If a chameleon shark is coming your way, it doesn't make sense why they are gaslighting you. It doesn't make sense why in the world they want to be so harsh to you. None of it makes sense. But once again, that goes back to the question, do you know you? Right? Do you know what you like? Do you know what kind of talk you will accept? Do you know what kind of behavior you will accept? Do you know what kind of behavior you don't accept? Do you know what kind of talk you don't accept? Do you know what kind of gestures or phrases or things that you just don't accept? And those for you are deal breakers. Like if this person goes past this limit, that's a deal breaker, right? And especially if you can vocalize that to someone and let them know, hey, listen, this is what I don't like. You did XYZ in the third, or you said this. I don't appreciate that phrase that you said or that comment you made. And if you do it again, we probably will not be talking or whatever you have to do. But you have to, sometimes you have to let people know when it comes to certain things that you just don't approve of. But if you let everything pass you and everything you accept, you tolerate, you accept, then sometimes you will start to become that doormat and you start to feel like resentful. Like, why am I always giving to this person? And I'm talking not about monetarily, but you're always giving your time, you're always giving that listening ear. But they never reciprocate. They never want to hear your problems. They never want to hear what's going on with you. They never want to offer you an encouraging word. They're always taking from you, taking your time, taking your energy, taking your advice. Just take, and never pour back in. No encouragement, no inspiration, no wondering what's going on with you so you can get some advice too from them or suggestions on a particular subject or something that's going on in your life. They are just takers. And you shouldn't want to be around someone who's just taking from you emotionally, and gaslighting takes from you with your energy, right? Because you have to sit there and wonder, well, why did they say that? Well, why did they mention that? That's more energy to absorb for you that you have to think about, did they really say that? Yeah, they said it. They definitely said it. So I remember when I was in this group, when we were talking about boundaries, and at first I was like, why do I need to know about boundaries for? That's dumb. Like, who cares? Like, why do I need to know that about that? But it was very apparent and clear after going through that course how much it is super important to know. And after going through what I've gone through with my own relationships, I can see that it's important to know where you're at so that you don't allow anybody to just walk all over you, right? And you're not trying to be rude, you're not trying to be crazy, you're not trying to do any of that. You are just trying to make sure you know the boundaries and limitations and standards for you that you set for yourself to protect you and keep you safe. There are people out here that are waiting in the wings to harm you because they know they see you as someone who's loving and kind and they can toy with your emotions, which they will do. And they don't have to explain why they do it, they just do, right? Sometimes the things people do does not make sense, and I can't explain why someone does something, but I can let you know one thing. If you can avoid them and avoid that behavior that they're doing, then you can protect yourself, right? And it's also good to know that you can be confident in knowing, hey, I avoided another trap for someone's trying to set for me. Because listen, this person knows what they're doing. That's the part that someone doesn't understand. The person knows exactly what they're doing. That's the scary part. You have someone who knows how to gaslight you, and they've been doing it for a period of time. And they know for a long time it's been getting them what they want. So why should they change their tactic when it helps them to get whatever it is that they are searching for? And if you bite their line and you fall into what they are thinking or doing and you rock with it, you go with it, then you've bought what they were putting out. You bought their bait. You took it hook, line, and sinker, right? You took all of it, the whole kit and caboodle. But you don't have to, right? You don't have to. And one thing that I read in Psalm 100 while we're talking is it said in verse 3 once again, know that the Lord, He is God. It is He who made us and not we ourselves, right? We have been made by the Lord. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. So when we allow people to, in a way, use us for their emotional high or their emotional jokesters, they're just taking over to just watch you squirm emotionally. That's not very Christian. That's not very kind. And once again, back to what I said, they don't care. They don't care. They have no care in the world about that. Now, there are people that might care. They might. But those people that are really worth your time, they wouldn't hurt you like that, right? And we have to start understanding that accepting certain behavior because we think we gotta be this person that's kind to everyone, even when they're being toxic to you. No, 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 you don't. You can walk away, and that's a safe thing to do. You can absolutely walk away. Some people don't like doing that because they don't want to leave that person. He's such a great guy. She's such a great woman, right? I just really enjoy being around, but that person's totally 100% toxic. And toxic people are not always ugly, okay? They could be fine as wine, but are you willing to let them go? Some people don't want to let things go. They've been around that toxicity for a long time. They can't let it go. And I'm speaking from experience. Hey, how are you? The toxicity, you could grow to tolerate and accept it. But listen, that's not something that you should. Hi, the voice, how are you? You shouldn't accept it, right? So, as I share with you guys, because this is going to be part of the Clubhouse podcast network Clubhouse, right? As I share with you, it is that point that you have to wonder if you're accepting something that you really don't need to. Now, when you look at that, you're like, well, I've got boundaries. Do you? Well, if you have boundaries, then you don't have to worry about someone gaslighting you because you can pull out their behaviors. You can pull out to see who they are. And like I said, with my personal chameleon shark attack that happened, that individual I have known for a while. And the same methods that he used before, he pulled them out again. There's no new tricks, right? He's going to use his old stuff because his old stuff worked before. But I couldn't be that same old person that he comes to years later and let me pull out all the stops because I'm going to get back in her pants. No, that we're not doing those things. We're not going down that lane. That was once upon a time happened, and once upon a time is gone. So we have to learn and remember and recall what happens. And now I call certain things a fancy booty call, right? Booty calls are booty calls, but sometimes they got to be a little bit fancy or unique booty call, right? And the fancy booty calls, for some of you that like, what is that? All booty calls are the same. Yeah, kind of. You get a call, you say, hey, let's meet, let's do the thing. But a fancy booty call could be, and I might add that to Chameleon Shark, could be part of the line, right? It could be part of that bait where that person pretends to enjoy everything that you do. I'm fine, thanks. Hope you are well too. Yes, it's sad when people can't get out of destructive relationships. Absolutely, the voice. Absolutely. Thank you so much for commenting. Absolutely. It is really, really terrible and very sad and disappointing. People can't leave those relationships, but it's out there and it happens. And just as the voice has mentioned, it's sad when people cannot get out of these destructive relationships. Now, with that being said, those fancy booty calls and going towards that particular comment, those fancy booty calls can be a person that is thinking that, listen, if I just engage with this person and act like I like the things that they're doing, that they're into, then I have an in because that person is going to utilize a tactic. It's a tactic. Now, there are people that are truly, genuinely interested in what you provide, what you offer, what you do, your kids, your everything like that. They're truly 100% interested. However, the chameleon shark and others like that man or woman will use your information to say, hey, what do? You like to do hobbies? I do too. Da, 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 da. And they're interested in what you're doing for a time until they say, you know what, you're such a good friend. Nobody like you. And then they start talking to you. One thing leads to another. And then you're thinking about, what did I just do? Right? Look, I've been there. I'm gonna put my hands at the sky. I've been there. I know what I'm talking about. I've been there. So fancy booty calls can happen, but when you realize that that person can't step away and they won't stop, you have to step away for a minute. So if we take out, and I'm just gonna say, I'll make my little diagram. If we take out sex, okay. Now, some of you are like, don't talk about that. Well, I have to be candid here, so I'm not going to be coarse or profane or anything like that, but let's just call things what they are. If we remove the sex element, which we will be talking about sex coming up in cuffing season, we'll be addressing that too, but this is just boundaries right now for cuffing season. But if we take out the sex element and let's say we tell that person, you know what, we've been engaged in this intimate time, but I want to just stop. Whether it be male or female, doesn't make a difference. Just say you're the person, whether you're a woman or man, and you say to that person, I just want to stop. We probably should just slow down and not do this for a while. I just want to, kind of clear my head and just kind of think without having that part like kind of clog up or fog up my kind of mind space, my mental space, because when you do engage in that, it can change the way you see a person because there's exchanges of a lot of things going on within that act, right? A lot's going on, a lot of emotion, a lot of everything. So when you remove that, you can find out how that person really feels about you. And I remember I did that. Story time. Okay. I remember I did that. I had a gentleman that I was involved with, and I told him, we were moving a little too fast for my liking. So I said, you know what? Let's just pump the brakes. Let's just stop doing this for a moment and let's just, hang out and chill. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I just want to not do that. I just don't want to engage in that right now. Now, everybody has a right to say what they don't want. That's your prerogative. It is absolutely your prerogative. Like, if you don't want to do something, you have every right to, and nobody has the right to force or do anything else that you don't want to do. They don't have the right, period. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You have your right to say you don't want something, and that should be that. That should be good enough. Well, I thought this person was understanding. At first, they said, okay, okay. And I said, we could come over, hang out, come over and talk and stuff. And I thought that was okay. Well, one fateful day, that individual came over. I was doing clothes and we were watching a movie and we didn't do anything, it was fine. And then for somehow things switched. Things switched like, are you sure you don't want to engage? I was like, yeah, I don't want to. Well, one thing tried to lead to another. And when I say try to, that person, after I had told them, like, we ended up on the couch and started moving. I was like, no, I don't really want to do this. Well, that person didn't hear no. I was like, you need to stop. He's like, well, you don't mean that. I was like, I do. Like, you need to stop. And I recall the position I was in. My hands were pinned to the couch and he was on top of me. And I said, you know what? No, we don't need to do this. We just need to, stop. Well, still the no was being said. The stop was being said. My hands were still pinned to the couch. And then he started to insert, right? I'm going to stop there because I'm not going to be super graphic. You guys know what else to happen as far as that part. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, I was being violated, just like, And after that, I was like, what are you doing? I got so angry. I was like, I said, no, stop, don't. What do you not hear? Oh, well, I thought you meant stop means yes, no means go. What? Are you crazy? That's not, I said, do you know what you were just doing over there? He's like, don't say it. And I said the word. I was like, listen, you got to go. I said, I didn't report that. But I said, and that's what another thing that sometimes women and men don't report these kind of things because you already feel embarrassed. You think they're going to be thinking it's your fault, which sometimes they do. So you don't report it. So I was like, you have to leave now. You have to get out of here. And I never want to see you again. Like, get out. I was so angry that that happened, right? Boundaries are truly for your protection. They are for your protection, 100%. And I had set a boundary. However, I had let my guard down, thinking that, everything was going to be cool. Well, he wasn't cool about it. And he still tried to get something that I had told him we should just lay off for a while, just chill out for a little bit. Well, after he did that, I never saw him again because I was like, I don't need to be around a person who's going to force themselves onto me, even though I said we need to chill out in a nice manner. And then you still want to do that. That's not good. Thank you, the voice. I appreciate that. It's a hard thing to think because those things have happened more than once in my lifetime. But those words, when you say no, it should be no. When you say stop, it should be stop. But some men and some women too do not understand that. And the way he reversed it says, well, I thought no meant go. What? How does no turn into go? Those are two separate words. They don't mean the same thing even at all. No, stop. How's no stop mean go? I thought you were just kidding. What? Yeah, I said, you're a monster. Like, you have no idea how angry I was. And after I quickly and angrily got rid of him, I sat in my apartment. My kids were at school. I sat in my apartment crying. Like, why in the world would he do that? And I clearly said, no, don't stop. Don't, like, no, right? But sometimes people don't hear that. And it's not because they don't want to, it's because they just want what they want. So you got to know you. Those boundaries are super important. And when you know what it is that is there, you have to stop, right? There have been times that I have, this is not my first experience in that kind of thing. It's happened a few times, right? I can at least know four good times. One, my ex husband had done, right? And I was crying through the whole thing. He's like, oh, I thought you liked it. What? I'm crying throughout the whole thing. How did I like it? Like, we're divorced and everything because he was a toxic guy anyway. But all of that going on, I realized that the boundaries, I needed to shore them up. I needed to have them a little stronger than I had. And if that person and I say no, what I discovered is I need to really figure out how to bring out the representative, to change the representative into the monster or the real person, to see how they are. And this is one thing I've been doing. Like, I get on the chat line or some of these dating sites, and when I engage with certain men, I like to see who they are for real because they always want to put their best foot forward. Now, not everybody's a monster. I'm not saying that, but you want to see how they are when it comes to conflict because they'll show you who they are. And if I can't talk to you and I can't dialogue with you when you're angry, you're not a person that I want to be around. So I remember there was this gentleman that I was talking to, and I thought he was real cool. 7'1", tall. Ooh, tall. I'm 5'3". He's 7'1". Like, I never met anyone that tall besides a guy that we used to know, and he was 6'7". That was the tallest I had met for a while until this guy 7'1" came into view. I was like, hey, Patrick, you is 7'1". So this guy was 7'1", living in a different part of California, and so he was saying he was going to come up. It's such a violation and mental humiliation to do that to someone. A no must always be no. Exactly the voice. You're absolutely right. It is a very huge violation. It doesn't feel good and it will never feel good. And that's something that you will always remember, right? It's not a control thing for the person who it's been happening to, but it is a control thing for the person who's perpetrating the act for sure. So this 7'1" gentleman, I remember he said he was going to come over and see me in my space where I live in the city I live. Well, we have been talking for a long time. And these days, it's very easy to see what people are really in it for the long haul or what people are just in it to see what they can get. If they think you're a flake or they think that you're not worth it and they just want to try and get something out of you, they just want to get in your pants and just leave you high and dry and just, I'm going to come and do that. So, anyway, I wanted to see what he was about. And I remember Pastor Jay, which some of you will get to know eventually. He'll be on Clubhouse tomorrow. But Pastor Jay was always telling me, he said, have always say no, right? Say no to see where they're at. See where they're at. So this one conversation we were talking about, and I said something to him. He's like, I'm gonna come up there and see you, and I'm gonna do this. I was like, yeah, no, you're not. And we're not in a relationship. He said, what did you say? I said, we're not in a relationship. He said, we're not in I said, we're not in a relationship. We're not. It's like, oh, you women always playing games. Y'all always playing games. And so it's no longer me. It's all women now. All women. He hasn't talked to all women, but now because I told him no, all women suck. Every single last one of them suck because I told him no. All y'all women like to play games. Y'all just play too many games. Da, 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 da. So he was just going off. And then he said something that I just wanted to see how he was gonna act. I didn't say anything. I just said, what? Why are you getting so angry? So you play games, you're playing with my emotions. So like, but I just told you we're not in a relationship. That's not playing, that's what it is. So then he said to me, and this is where some chameleon sharks also are, and he took what I told him and he reversed it on me, right? And that's the thing that we talked about when it comes to gaslighting, that sometimes that chameleon shark, that individual, will take something that you told them that is something that's very vulnerable for you to share, and they'll take it and they'll weaponize it, throwing it back at you. Pardon my little throat. His drinks some of this coconut water. So they'll throw it back at you. And that's what he did. Because I told him about my ex-husband, who I was in a domestically violent situation with my ex-husband. My marriage was toxic, it was abusive, it was all that. And so he said to me, because I told him no, we were not in a relationship, and he and I had not done anything. He never met me, I'd never seen him. So there was no anything between us. Nothing, none of that. So he said to me, "Are you sure you're not the reason for the whole marriage destroyed?" He's like, "I see why your husband abused you." I was like, "What did you say?" He's like, "I see now. Because I told you we're not in a relationship and I told you no, that you could see why I was abused." Like, yeah. I'm like, well, that shows where your mentality is. Because if you agree with my ex husband who almost tried to strangle me to death, well, then you must have the same mentality of when you don't get what you want, you're going to want to hurt me because I'm not doing what you want me to do. No, boundaries are some serious things and they do protect you. And because so many men are seeing so much sexualization, and I'm not saying all of them, but some of them are so overly sexualized, they just believe they can do whatever it is, and they see a woman, they just want to have that person, and they do whatever. And I remember I watched an Instagram video. This man went and he groped this woman's behind, and she pushed him, and he came back and he punched her in the face, and he touched her. I'm like, what society are we living in? Do you think you could just grab people's parts of their body because you see it on them and because you like what she look like, you just go and grab her? And then because she resists your advance, you wail on her as a man wailing on her, right? Hurting her. Just like, oh my gosh. And some men, when they see women, and like I said some, not all, some men, and it might be a small group, I don't know. When they see women, they're just so quick to say, "Hey, how are you?" And you say no, and they come and punch you and beat you up. I said that avoids me from talking to some of them because, I don't want to say something wrong, and then that would happen, right? I don't walk in fear, but I do walk in awareness. And like the word says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I want to be aware of what's going on with my surroundings, not trying to incite violence against myself. I don't want to do that. So you got to know who you are and you got to know your boundaries, your limitations, your standards. You got to know those and have those. Because when you don't have them, these people will run over you. So you want to get them to reveal who they are real early in the game so you can dodge all kinds of mental crazy bullets that would come to you through emotional heartbreak and pain. You don't want it. You don't want that. You don't want to experience any kind of sexual assault. You don't want to experience rape. You don't want to experience none of that stuff that's unnecessary from people who can show you their signs real early in the game if you just flush it out. Flush them out to become who they really are. Like it shows in the different cartoons and different like power movies of superheroes when the villain is in a disguise and after they're done like they bust out of their disguise and now they become who they truly are. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see the person who looks like Clark Kent, right? You want to see Doc Ock behind that. Like, are you like what? Not the Superman, because that, no, we want the monster part of that person. So that person walking around looking like Peter Parker and then turn into Venom. We want to see that part. We want to see the part that says steer clear. And you don't have to be close to that person for them to reveal it, which is a good time right now during, of course, this pandemic, that you can talk to a person over the phone, video chat, or whatnot, and you can flush it out. You just got to remember who you are and boundaries. Boundaries are so important. And like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's a male or female, you do not want to have to go through those things that are not necessary. You want to transform your life by understanding who you are. And some of us don't want to take the time to learn who we are because we just want to accept a relationship. After how long after how long time into your relationship marriage started the abuse? Do you see any signs in his personality prior to the abuse? Okay, voice, I'm gonna address that right now. So in the very beginning, there could have been signs. Like I can look back in hindsight now, right? And see that there were signs. I didn't recognize those signs then because I didn't know what they were. So this is a thing that people also don't understand when it comes to domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Not everybody knows what the signs are. And if you don't know what the signs are, you really cannot avoid them because you don't know what to look for, right? So in the very beginning, there were signs that I could tell you about that I recognize now that I didn't know what they were then. Because, like I said, this person has a pattern of behavior and I didn't know about it, right? I didn't know how he was because I knew him for about 2 years, almost 2.5 years before we got married, right? And so I saw he had anger, right? But he would always say, "Oh, I'm sorry, da da da." Didn't know that was part of the cycle of violence. I know now. That was part of the cycle of violence and him doing the honeymoon phase and the tension. We never got to explosion because he never put his hands on me when we were dating. He was always a gentleman. There would just be times when we got married that started to show, right? And so I'll tell you when the abuse started to happen. So in the courting phase, there were signs like he would call incessantly. And I would think in my head, oh my gosh, he loves me so much. Because he would call. He's like, didn't you see I was calling you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so busy. Because my sister was with me one day and he was calling back to back to back to back to back to back. So, oh my gosh, he was really, really want to talk to me. That's so amazing. That's the power and control wheel that I learned about now, having to go through all that, right? That's power and control when they want to know your every move. They want to isolate you from family, all this good stuff. I know that stuff now. I didn't before. So I didn't know that's part of power and control. I didn't know that's part of his control mechanism, but it was that I wasn't answering his phone call. That was a controlling thing in his controlling behavior. So the signs were there, yes. So I did see the signs. I didn't know what they were, so I didn't recognize them. So when we got married in 2008, we got married in May. The first sign of abuse happened in July 4th, 2008. After my daughter was born, June 13th, 2008. That's the first time he had hit me. So I had written a book about this, and it's called The Gift of Finding God's Love, Guilt and Shame Turned into My Shine. Now, once again, I had not known about the signs of how domestic violence, all of it happens. Like if you're not aware, if you don't know, you just don't know. So I didn't know to go look about domestic violence. I knew what had happened to me, that he had just put his hands on me. So what I did, because my child was still a newborn, right? I had just had her in June. He hit me in July. So for me, I had just come out of the hospital. I'm dealing with all these hormones and these emotions. My family doesn't really like him, but I don't want to go back to my family because I was escaping my family and their abuse at the time that I was going through. I was escaping that abuse from them, and I really didn't want to be there. And I said, I have a choice to make. And in my head, I rationalized it all out. I said, I can go back to my family. I have this baby. And I said, we've just been married just in May. It is only July. And I'm supposed to go back. I said, we weren't even married a good year yet. And it happened in July. So I remember I was standing in the garage with my daughter in the darkness. And I was crying. And I was looking up at the fireworks as they were shooting in the sky. They were red and green. I remember it like it was yesterday in Colorado Springs, just standing in the garage in Leote, 2605 Leote Drive. I was standing there in the garage in the darkness with my daughter, who was just born, standing out there. And she was in her little stroller beside me. And I was just crying, like, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? I didn't have any money, not for real. And he wasn't working. Where was I supposed to go? We were staying in my parents' home, one of their house. We didn't have an apartment. We didn't have anything. So where was I supposed to go? So at that time, I didn't know about domestic violence shelters. I didn't know about domestic violence. I didn't know about all of that in depth as I do know now. I can see signs a mile away coming now. Absolutely. So, yes, back in that time, there were tons of signs and tons of red flags, but I didn't know that. So, I had to learn a very hard, very painful, very doggone right, almost deadly lesson because he almost killed me. But I know now, right? And so, by the grace of God, I got out of that situation and I'm thankful. So, I will always talk about domestic violence. And that's one of the things that I wanted to do on my podcast, which is called God's Gift Through His Word. And I talk about inspiration through the Word, but I always talk about domestic violence because people have this kind of perception that everybody knows what domestic violence is and knows the signs. And that's not true. Because if it was true, we wouldn't have millions of men and women being hurt every day within seconds. We wouldn't have that. Yeah, it's sad, but it's okay. I'm alive to tell the tale. It's yes, and it's definitely important for women to hear, and that's why I continue to do it. I continue to do that, and I've been working on this nonprofit, which it has its 501c3 called Loving Arms for Families, to help veterans that have gone through domestic violence and abuse, and that also have children that are on the spectrum and HIV/AIDS prevention and education, which is what I want to continue to do. So I utilize this time with cuffing season as well to talk about these different types of signs because it can happen in this time because cuffing season is a heightened season within the holidays. So sometimes people get so lonely that they want to be with someone during cuffing season. They want to be with someone through the holidays. So one of our first major holidays has already happened, Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving already happened, and people start to feel it. They start to feel they want to be loved. They start seeing the Christmas music, the Christmas movies, the Christmas music with the nostalgia. And oh my gosh, it would be so great to, have someone with me and we're drinking hot cocoa, we're having nice coffee, we're going to family functions and the work parties, and they're doing all of this stuff, and they could get with the wrong person that could be like my ex. They could be like him or her, and you get with that person and they're dangerous. And so we said, well, that's not a thing. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Cuffing season is something that needs to be shared and people need to be made aware of it. People don't talk about it anymore, not as often, but this is cuffing season. People try to get cuffed up and try to be with somebody because they're lonely, they want to be with someone. They got that sense of desperation. They don't want to be alone at night in the cold in the winter months by themselves in one lonely sheet. What's nice being snuggled up with somebody else, warm body in your bed? Hello. I wouldn't mind that either. But I have to remember and recall I'm not trying to do that. Some people don't understand. They just want to do that, right? And it's biological. It's not just, oh, I just want somebody in my bed. No, it goes with the time because daylight savings comes. It is colder for real because the seasons are changing. Winter's coming in. Winter's already started in a lot of parts of the United States. The snow is coming. Some people have the first snow. All that stuff is happening. Also important for women to be independent and have an income. If you are in a financial trap, it's way more difficult to leave an abusive relationship. It is hard, and sometimes women don't have that opportunity, that luxury to have that kind of independent living wage because their spouse makes all the money, and they might just be a stay-at-home mother, right? So while that's important and it's super important that they are independent, not all women can be like that, and not all women have access to their own money, because that's another thing that keeps them stuck and trapped, is they don't have their own. And if they're being controlled by their husband, then they're not allowed to go out and go get a job, right? So it's also it's also important to know that as well. There's a lot of aspects that go into domestic violence, and being financially abused is another one. And even though it'd be great if all women could be independent and financially secure, that's not always the case, right? A stay at home mom that has to stay at home and her husband runs the finances, yeah, it's going to be hard for her to go to work, especially if he's a jealous man and thinks that every single man that she would be talking to at work will be hitting on her. So he don't let her go to work. Her job is to stay home, cook, clean, take care of the kids, and give him what he needs sexually, right? So we have to understand there's a lot more that goes into it. It'd be wonderful if all women could be financially independent, but they're not, right? And so some women end up in homeless shelters because of it, right? And some of them end up homeless. Even if they have finances, they end up homeless because now they have to leave that home because that person is abusive, right? So it's a little bit more than that. The financial stability is part of it. But if someone, you have finances and you're working and someone kicks you out of the home, well, now you're homeless, right? So you didn't have to worry about that if you were in a relationship, especially if it's a marriage. It's a little bit more challenging with that. And if you have kids, it gets a little bit even more difficult, right? It gets more difficult and it gets more challenging with that. So as I share, I always am very, very aware of different circumstances that I know of certain women that would love to be financially independent, but they couldn't. Their husband controlled everything, controlled where they went, controlled who they talked to, controlled their friendships, right? Unless you have been in that situation, you really don't understand the psychological, mental abuse that's happening. And it's always a fight. And it's not easy for them to get out of those situations. So even leaving, it has to be planned out, right? Because if you leave, that's also the most deadliest time when a lot of homicides happen. Because if you leave, they'll hunt you down. And sometimes if you tell them, I'm leaving, people end up dead. And why? Because that person doesn't want them to leave. So it's a very serious, very dangerous, very volatile situation. And I always tell people, leave when it's safe to do so. You don't just tell somebody, I'm leaving. No, 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 no. Not with that kind of situation. Not in domestic violence, we don't do that. We don't play like that. I don't want anybody to play like that. If you're going to leave, you just need to make your plan, make preparation, and go without saying any word. Silence is golden, I would always say. Silence is golden if you're going to leave. So it's good that the voice has brought this up, because I was talking about boundaries and standards, but this is also very important, and it goes hand in hand sometimes with cuffing season. Because if you get with the wrong person, you might find yourself shacking up with this person or laying with a person that turns into something that you don't really know them that well, but because you want somebody in your bed, now you've got an abusive person in your life, and now it's going to cost you to leave and get out of that situation. And it's not easy to do. Once you're in that thing, it takes everything in you to get out of that. There's a lot of mental acrobats and psychological things that you have to do, because you are mentally trapped. Physically, you can go anywhere, you could drive anywhere, but your mental has to be stronger. You have to get that stronger. So I understand that going through that for me, it wasn't that easy, right? It wasn't that easy. Looking into a situation, it's not always that easy. It's not always what people think. Like, you should just pack up. And I was told how many times when I was in my situation, you need to pack up and leave. You need to, da, da, da. But somebody's got to think. Like, if you got kids, where am I just going to pack up and go where? And I don't have enough money to go here and there and everywhere. Where am I going? Well, just go here and just go there. They don't understand. You got to get your kids out of school. You have to plan it, right? You can't just jump and disappear. Things have to be in order. And so he says, I'll just take the first time and just go. No, you have to make sure you plan it and plan it correctly so that you do it and that you don't have to go back, right? Because I went back a second time to go get some things I left, but rest assured, that was a scary time to go back because he was still the same and he still remembered how I left. And I left in a really crappy way. So I can live to tell the tale, but I don't ever advise anybody to go back because that's dangerous when you go back. It sure is. So I definitely like always sharing about it because it is something that's real. These things that people think are so easy to come out of, they're not. They're really not. And if you're not careful, you'll end up in a situation like that. And Pastor Jay and I speak on it all the time. You don't end up in a situation where you're in something for a lifetime and you don't know how to get out of it. Those traps are real. Those financial traps are real, and the abuse is real, and the whole situation is very real. So when I'm talking about it and I'm sharing about it, and I'm always doing my best to share as much as I can about it, it's never a good idea to try and say, you know what, I'm gonna bounce up out of here and I don't care nothing about you and your stupid self, blah 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 blah. No, 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 no. Just don't do that. It'd be better you just pack up, make sure you got your stuff together, and you leave. So I want to probably get something together where I teach about it, but I always let people know there's a few steps that you have to do. And for me, because I'm going to give that just in case somebody's on here, because this came up and we're talking about domestic violence right now. If you find yourself in a domestically violent situation right now, currently, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1 800 SAFE, and it's SAFE, the numerics to that, 7233. Of course, I've been doing this for a while, so that just rattles off my tongue, and they can help you in your local area. So please, if you're afraid or scared, or you don't know what to do or how to maneuver, that's a great place to start. And they can help you in your local area. So, one of the things I do, because I remember I had shared my story and I only share bits and pieces of it. If you get the book, you could hear all of it, but I like to share a little bit more when it comes to leaving. Because one thing people don't understand how to do is they don't know how to leave. Believe it or not, they don't know how to leave. And it's not like, oh, I just get my car, excuse me, and just drive away. It's a little bit more involved in that. And so I always tell people to have their excuse me, their WPS paired with their EPS. Oh, well, what is that? You need to write, plan, and strategize. You need to write your plan and strategize how you're going to maneuver. That's the preparation part, because you want to prepare and plan. That's your plan and preparation part with your WPS. Write, plan, strategize. Then your EPS, and I always want to give people freedom to have the E that they want, whether it's your escape, whether it's your exit, or whether it's your execute. Either one will work for me. But it's your execute, or exit, or escape, plan, strategy. So when you have prepared your WPS, which you write down what you're going to do, you're going to plan it out, you're going to strategize, you're going to make sure you have everything together, you have all your documents, you're going to write about what time you're going to leave, you're going to figure out what day of the week, you're going to figure out all of that out, you're going to plan it down to the wire. You're also going to come up with some backup plans. Like if plan A doesn't work, what are you going to do? You're going to figure out your transportation. How are you going to have transportation? What kind of money you're going to need? Or if you don't have that, is there someone that's going to pick you up? Are you going to a shelter? Are you going to friends? Are you going to family? Where are you going? You need to plan all of that. Your finances. You need to plan everything. And if you don't have money, then who's going to help you? Where are you going to eat? Who's going to help you with that? Are you going to a facility? Are you going to transitional housing? Where are you going so that you have a destination for you to go? And if you have kids, where are they going? And have you got their school stuff together? Have you got everything together so you can go and transfer? If you got to transfer to schools and different things like that, just understanding all of that, that takes a lot. You can't just jump out of a situation like that. It just doesn't happen that way. Some people may have been able to do that, But me, I had to prepare. I really had to prepare because I couldn't just go. I couldn't just leave. I had to get my kids out of school. I had to resign from my job. I had to do all of that before I could go. So after I had planned and prepared and wrote and planned it out, then I had to execute or exit or escape plan, strategize how to go, right? And one thing I want to say is when it comes to your time, you always set your time as exactly when you're going to leave and you don't change it. You don't change it for you don't change it for anybody. So, say you want to leave at 5 o'clock p.m., you're leaving. You're driving away. The only thing you're stopping for is for some gas if you need it, and you're heading to your next destination if you need gas. But if you have someone's going to pick you up, they need to pick you up exactly at that time, whatever time you said, or van or bus or whatever, and they need to pick you up exactly at that time. So you don't chicken out, you don't back out like, well, maybe we can work it out if I stay. No, no, no. You go, you look at the time, like, okay, it's time to go. And you're gone. You're doing whatever you need to do to continue on your way. So you got your time and you get to going. So you start heading to your destination. You make sure you already have your money and everything is already ready to go. There's no need for you to turn back. You're just traveling now. You're in travel mode to your next destination, to sleep, to lay down, whatever it is, you're going to that place far away from the individual so that you can be safe and you can be away from them, right? It is in the leaving part that's dangerous. If that person finds out you're leaving, you could lose your life. So silence is golden. And don't call them. Don't engage with them. Block their number. Erase their number. Don't you call them and tell them, well, I left and I'm going here, XYZ and third. Don't do that unless they already know where you're at. Like my ex knew I was going to come to California when I left Arizona. He knew I was going to come here because my family's here, right? That's a given. But if I had gone somewhere else, that would also been good too. But I didn't know anywhere else, so I just came here. But all these things I learned, it's just like you have to plan and prepare this. Just like with the boundaries, you have to plan and prepare the boundaries so that those people who are chameleon sharks, when they come to you, you will be prepared. You'll be prepared for them. And if you tell them that you're not interested or whatnot, and they start to act crazy, you know you can leave. You know about all of that. So I'm sharing because nobody wants to be strangled. No one wants to be held at gunpoint. No one wants to be stabbed. You don't want none of that. And I said, I share a lot of stories because this is true. Regardless of how people feel, this is true. These things happen. And cuffing season can run along the side of anything within the holiday time, but you got to be careful too because you could pick up an abuser. You don't know because we sometimes want to be with who we want to be with. Our heart wants what it wants. That's it. I gotta go. Hope to hear you again some other time. You have an important story to share and to encourage women to leave abusive relationships. I'm on the other side of the pond in Europe, Sweden. Are you on Clubhouse now? How can people from HAPS find you on Clubhouse if they want to hear more of you? Thanks for sharing your story. Peace and love. Oh, thank you, The Voice. Well, I know you've got to get off, but yes, I'm on Clubhouse, and you guys can find me under T Drake and the Podcast Connect Network. So definitely check it out. If you're on podcasts on the Clubhouse tomorrow, come on in. It'll be on Saturday, 4 p.m., 6 p.m., and 7 p.m. PST, CST, and EST. I don't know how that works out for over in Europe, but I hope to see you there, The Voice. Thank you for tuning in. So, as The Voice is leaving, I just wanted to share that with you guys because that's so important, right? So, we're going to still continue talking about boundaries, knowing them, knowing your limitations, knowing everything about who you are. You take care too. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you. Take care. So, you want to know and make sure that everything that you do, that you are aware, right? You're aware. And God didn't make us to be not aware. My people perish for lack of knowledge, is what it says. But we got to remember that. So, as I was just sharing, thank you for the hearts, love you much. So, as I was just sharing, that God has made us and not we ourselves. So, set up your boundaries and know that it's for your protection. Oh, thank you so much for the donation. Appreciate you very much. So it's for you. It's for you to stay safe in all parameters of all of this cuffing season. So I hope you guys will tune in because this is gonna be a thing, right? We're not even almost, but we have one of the major holidays down. So Christmas is next, the big doozy, right? Christmas is next, and then we have New Year's, and then we have Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh, we're gonna get through this. Don't worry, guys, we're gonna get through this. So we are on our way. So I'm gonna get back to doing what I was doing before I came on here to share with you guys. I got some more things I have to do for bookmarks because I'm going to make these bookmarks and put them with the candy bags for the DB organization and put my little bells and candy canes in there. So I want you guys to have a blessed and motivated night. Remember, a big kiss from me to you. Remember, I love you, but the Lord loves you immensely way more than I do. I thank you guys for stopping by and sharing some time with me. I really do appreciate it because, listen, as much as I talk on my podcast, which I didn't, I forgot to make my podcast today. I was busy doing some other things with the kids because when they're home, they take me off my game. But at least I got two lives in today. But I do want to say this that it is so important that we start to love ourselves the right way, not to be overindulgent, but to care about ourselves and know we're worthy of real love, worthy of that love that is beautiful and it's kind and it's compassionate and it cares and it endures. It endures all things. That's the kind of love you want. You want that raggedy, broke down love. You don't want that. You don't want that kind of love. So I'm going to continue to push my message out. And don't forget that if you did not get a chance to see all 4 episodes of God's Gift Through His Word, the TV show on Roku, don't forget to download the app, the Promote Her TV app. And you can look on the Spirit of Excellence TV to find all the episodes from Jay Siobhan, from Allison. I call it All Is On. You can find from her, and you can find also Red Sable and then Pastor Jay. So please do tune in. I'll probably put up a little template about all 4 where you can find them and watch them. And hopefully you get to go back and share it with some of your loved ones about the things that they share. Those are some people dear to me. And of course, Pastor Jay, my best friend. He is so amazing. And I love sharing his stuff because he teaches the word and he's an amazing teacher. I just want people to get to hear him and hear what he's always sharing because he's always sharing some good stuff. So, with that being said, remember to be blessed, motivated, and always inspired to do what God lays on your heart. And remember, when you say no, that's what it is. It's no. No does not mean go. And we do not collect $200 and go past go. We don't do that. We know we stop. And you need to know who you are. So, know who you are. Have those boundaries. And do you know you? Because you need to. All right, be blessed, motivated, and always inspired, once again, to do what God lays on your heart. You guys have an amazing night, everyone, or amazing early morning if you're over here on the West Coast. I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Take care, y'all. Bye now.